Well, good afternoon. I'm joined here in City Hall by Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. 10 days ago, our city and nation received a horrific reminder that we remain targets for terrorists. And immediately upon news of the explosions in Boston, we fully mobilized the New York City Police Department's vast counterterrorism operations because we thought there was a possibility that there could be a related attack here. We now know that that possibility was, in fact, all too real. Last night, we were informed by the FBI that the surviving attacker revealed that New York City was next on their list of targets. He told the FBI apparently that he and his brother had intended to drive to New York and designate additional explosives in Times Square. They had built these additional explosives, and we know they had the capacity to carry out the attacks. If, God forbid, they had arrived in New York City and gone to Times Square, one thing for sure, they would have seen an enormous police presence. But they would not have seen extensive networks of cameras that are part of our security initiative and which can help police identify suspicious movements, such as packages left unattended on the streets. The investments that we've made in counterterrorism operations, technology, and intelligence help reduce the possibility of a successful terrorist strike, but they certainly do not eliminate it. Nothing can do that. We don't know if we would have been able to stop the terrorists had they arrived here from Boston. We're just thankful that we didn't have to find out that answer. And as a result of the extraordinary work of the Watertown, Massachusetts Police Department, the Boston Police Department, and the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and other law enforcement agencies, the terrorists were stopped before they could carry out further attacks, though not before, sadly, murdering an MIT police officer, Sean Collier, and wounding others. The role the surveillance cameras played in identifying the suspects was absolutely essential to saving lives, both in Boston and now we know here in New York City as well. We've made major investments in camera technology, notwithstanding the objections of some special interests, and the attacks in Boston, I think, demonstrate just how valuable those cameras can be. We've been able to make these investments and many others with the support from the federal government, and I did want to thank Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano and President Obama for recognizing that Homeland Security funding should be based on threat and threat alone, not pork barrel politics. The fact is, New York City remains a prime target for those who hate America and want to kill Americans. The attacks in Boston and the news that New York City was next on the terrorist list shows just how critical it is for the federal government to devote resources to high-risk areas. It also shows just how crucial it is for the NYPD to continue to expand its counterterrorism capabilities and intelligence gathering activities. Now let me turn the floor over to Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Mayor said last evening, we learned through the Joint Terrorist Task Force that the Boston Marathon bombers had planned to travel to Manhattan to detonate their remaining bombs in Times Square. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the terrorist suspect who was captured alive, initially told investigators that he and his brother decided after the Boston bombings that they would go to New York City to party. However, a subsequent questioning of Dzhokhar revealed that he and his brother decided spontaneously on Times Square as a target. They would drive to Times Square that same night. They discussed this while driving around in the Mercedes SUV that they had hijacked after they shot and killed an MIT police officer in Cambridge, Dzhokhar said. That plan, however, fell apart when they realized that the vehicle that they hijacked was low on gas and ordered the driver to stop at a nearby gas station. The driver used the opportunity to escape and call the police. That eventually led to the shootout in Watertown, where the older brother was killed in an exchange of gunfire with the police. Up until that point, the two brothers had at their disposal 6 improvised explosive devices. One was a pressure cooker bomb, similar to the 2 that had exploded at the marathon. The other 5 were pipe bombs. We know that Dzhokhar was photographed in Times Square with friends on or before April 18th of 2012, and that he was in the city again in November of 2012. We don't know if those visits were related in any way to what he described as the brothers' spontaneous decision to target Times Square. The NYPD Intelligence Division is actively investigating to determine Dzhokhar's movements in New York City, as well as who he might have been with here. New York City detectives and supervisors assigned to the Joint Terrorist Task Force with the FBI are assisting in the ongoing investigation in both Boston and New York. There's no evidence at this time, however, to indicate that New York City is currently a target of another terrorist attack stemming from the Boston bombings. Mr. Mayor.
I'll be happy to take a question or two. Yes, sir. Please identify yourself.
Dave Seifman, New York Post. Commissioner, you said they decided to do this spontaneously, meaning that they had no plan before to come to New York. They just decided on the spot.
That's what we believe now. In the car, they made a decision to go to New York with the remaining explosive devices that they had and to detonate one or more in Times Square.
And keep in mind that we didn't interrogate the suspect ourselves. This is the information we're getting from those, the FBI and the local police departments in Boston that did interrogate. Yes, miss.
Jill Colvin from The Observer. Were you told of anything about the conversation and why they decided that Times Square was the target that they wanted?
No, we don't have that depth of information at this time.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Aaron Katursky from ABC. In regard to what you had just said, Mr. Mayor, do you believe the FBI hid information or delayed giving you any information?
There's no reason to think the FBI hides anything. The FBI does what they think is appropriate at the time, and you'll have to ask them what they found out and what the actual details of the interrogation were. We were not there. But once they give us information, then the police commissioner right away acts on that information, takes whatever steps he thinks is appropriate. For example, the first time we heard of the bomb blasts, right away we redeployed all of our police resources and strengthened everything, a heightened security, and that's what we're supposed to do. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Josh Einiger, WABC. I'm wondering if you have any specific knowledge of a specific location within Times Square they were looking at, and also if you could discuss the technology that you have in that area and how it might have potentially affected the outcome.
We have no specific information about a targeting location, if you will, but we have, as the mayor said, a lot of technology in place, a lot of cameras. We have a lot of police officers there around the clock. And assuming they left at some time like 10 o'clock and were able to get here at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they would have seen a lot of police officers in Times Square at that time.
Yes, miss.
Allison Fox with the Wall Street Journal. Was there any indication that these suspects were going to, I guess, target not only a specific area in Times Square, but a specific time period? I mean, they would have got here in the middle of the night and there wouldn't have been many sort of tourists or people hanging around. Was this at all thought out any more than let's just go to Times Square and see what happens?
No, we have no more specific information. Again, the initial information we had is we're going to come to party, then it changes in the subsequent interrogation of a intent to bomb, but we have no more specificity than that.
Hi, Ivan Pereira, AM New York. Now that you've got this information, will you deploy any NYPD counterterrorism officers to Boston to further interrogate the suspect or get more information NYPD side?
To
get more information about this just from your own staff instead of the FBI?
We have people who are working with the Joint Terrorist Task Force in Boston. We have officers that are working in the BRIC, which is the Boston Regional Intelligence Center. So, we have a lot of interaction. I was in communication with the Boston Police Commissioner. So, if that's your question, there's a New York City police presence there, a welcome presence, I might add, and we have an exchange of information all the time.
But remember, this is the Boston Police Department, Watertown Police Department, Boston branch of the FBI. They're the ones in charge, and we have great confidence in their abilities. Yes, in the back, this young lady.
Thank you. Could you elaborate a little bit on the time frame of these two interrogations? The first one when they talked about partying, and then the second one that revealed the new information. Was it the same night, days later?
Talking of the period when they were questioned, you mean, when he was questioned? Yeah, we believe the first interrogation of Dzhokhar happened on Saturday evening into Sunday morning, and that the second questioning period was from Sunday evening into Monday morning.
This gentleman up here, all the way up.
Tony DeStefano, Newsday. How confident, Mr. Commissioner, were you that the surveillance, police presence in the area, and also the metric camera systems, biometrics that you may have used, would have seen something and perhaps forestalled any event?
It's unknown. You know, we don't. We have a lot of presence there, have resources there, but there are no guarantees.
We spend every dime we think we can spend to get a real value, and we work with, we train our people continuously, and we monitor what goes on around the world for best practices and what the terrorists might be doing. But as Ray said, there are no guarantees. All we can do is do everything that we can, and that's exactly what we're doing. Public has a right to expect us to keep them safe to the extent humanly possible, and that's exactly what we're doing, sir.
Dean Memminger, New York One. Obviously, the FBI is questioning suspect number 2 still in the hospital. Initially, people hear him saying he wanted to come to New York to party, now to bomb. Is there a reason for you to believe the second story and not the first? A real reason? Maybe, you know, that he was really coming here to bomb? Or is he making up stories altogether?
We have an obligation, we believe, to put that information out. The information we received is that he was a lot more lucid and gave much more detailed information in the second questioning period.
And regardless, whether we believe it or not, this is the information we get, and we're going to take everything seriously. God forbid we don't make light of anything. We have to assume the worst and deploy our resources to make sure it doesn't happen. It'd be wonderful if it wasn't true. But this does appear to be what the FBI or the Boston police are telling us, is what the guy said. We want to get this young lady here.
Mr. Mayor, Marcia Kramer from WCBS TV. It's a two-part question, really. Number one, you have evidence, I presume pictures, of them being in Times Square in April of 2012, I think you said, and again in November. I wonder if you have any more information about what they were doing here. And secondly, had they got to Times Square with their 6 bombs, including the pressure cooker bomb, what's the potential damage they could have done if they exploded them?
Well, we know that, as you say, on or before 18 April of 2012, they had that picture taken. Some of the people in that picture have been identified, and that part of the investigation is certainly going forward. You know, you look at what the bomb did in Boston, and then you would have to take that and obviously speculate as to what it could do in Times Square. There's a significant number of people in Times Square at that hour. There are clubs, bars that are operating. So, you know, I wouldn't want to guess, but clearly we saw the power of the bombs in Boston. You take that and you can just use your, you know, you can give it a guesstimate as to what the damage would be in New York City.
And just because they came here doesn't mean they'd have to do something right away. We have a question back here, this young lady. First, the young lady in front of you had her hand up. I'm sorry.
Jillian Jorgensen, Staten Island Advance. Obviously, Times Square is an area that has a lot of technology, a lot of cameras, a large police presence. When it comes to larger events that span, you know, all 5 boroughs, like the marathon or like the TD bike tour that's coming up, how do you secure those large public gatherings?
With great difficulty, right?
Yeah, right. With difficulty, as the mayor said, but certainly it requires a lot of law enforcement presence, a lot of police officers, and that's precisely what we'll be deploying. We have some cameras. As you know, we've said that we are moving to expand the number of mobile cameras that we have, but that's going to be a ways off. We have some, but a relatively small number. So we'll have a lot of people covering that route. We have some counterterrorism resources that we use. We have vehicle that takes pictures, 363 pictures that we use on a route of major events. We'll be continuing to do that sort of thing. We have our sky watches that give you an elevated view. We have where, if we needed license plate readers, that sort of thing, we would deploy them.
And the gentleman behind you.
Thank you. James Ford from WPIX, Channel 11. If you both have talked about, this is sort of a piggyback on this, about resources that you have in the Times Square area. Can you elaborate further about further resources you want to have in that area that could add to the security of Times Square?
Well, I think it's fair to say, the mayor certainly said it, that we want to expand our cameras, the number of cameras that we have. And we'd like to also, in that universe, expand our smart camera capability. We talked about that, adding algorithms. Video analytics is called. So that is sort of an additional aspect. It doesn't come with every camera, believe me. So just the number of cameras throughout all 5 boroughs, and to increase the number of cameras capable of video analytics.
And let me remind you, we have been expanding. We started out with the Lower Manhattan Security Initiative, and then expanded it to Midtown. And we are working wherever there's large groups of people. That would be the logical place to put your cameras. But one of the things for sure, you're never going to know where all our cameras are. And that's one of the ways you deter people. They just don't know whether the person sitting next to you is just somebody sitting there, or whether it's a detective watching to try to keep us safe. This gentleman next right here.
David Goodman, New York Times. Can you elaborate a little bit on, you mentioned that he was more lucid in the second interrogation and that he provided more detail than he had when he was discussing the party plan, when he was discussing the attack plan. And can you say whether he was speaking words himself, or whether he was responding yes, no, or whether he responded in writing?
Just the last part, if he was what?
Whether he was speaking words himself, responding yes or no, or in writing when interrogated by the FBI.
To the best of my knowledge, he's speaking. And as I say, he was more lucid, we're told, in the second interview, and was more expansive, giving more detail. The first interview was relatively a short time after he went into the hospital. This was 24 hours later.
I mean, keep in mind, what we have is information from them. We weren't there in the room. Yes, Miss?
Mr. Mayor, do you have any idea, or Mr. Kelly, do you have any information about where Dzhokhar was staying when he was here in New York, either last November or on the previous trips?
Not really. We have some idea, but not at this time. Can we say with certainty?
This young lady here has another question.
Danielle Chalakian from Metro New York. If the decision to come to New York was spontaneously made in the car, where were they previously planning on taking all 6 bombs?
We have no idea. I mean, we weren't there in the room, and we only have the information that has been provided to us. Young lady way up in the riser.